Now that Trump has become president, Social Security will not become bankrupt. Your 401k is going to go through the moon. You're going to find opportunities in the housing market. You're going to be wealthy and rich.
Wealthy and rich. Wealthy and rich.
In all honesty, if either one of them became president, the economy would have done what it was supposed to do and things would have rebalanced at some point in time. It's just one takes one approach that might slow things down a bit. One takes the other approach that might accelerate things quite a bit. It doesn't really matter. But there are some good things I extracted from Trump's presidency that's coming up that I think it's good for us to talk about. The number one thing is inside of the government. Musk repeatedly said that the government spending is crazy. They overspend on a necessary thing. How can they get much more efficient? Because every single year, the government spends more than it brings in. Government gets their income from our tax-paying dollars. So every time you get paid from your W-2 paychecks, it goes to the government. That's their income. Your hard-earned work, they get a piece of it because they helped you work along the way. You know what I mean? Like, they put in that labor and time and effort. They were right there, right next to you, lifting those things up, being behind the computer. Uncle Sam is such a great helper in all those areas. They get that income. Now they go and spend it on things that we may not necessarily know about. They control all that. They spend it how they want to. Of course, there's a body of group of people that makes the decision on how that money gets spent. But what's happening is they spend more than they bring in. So all the tax money they collect is probably here, and they spend this much. But why does this keep happening, and why does this keep going on? And why is there nobody there to stop them? Well, they're the government. They can do what the heck they want. And what they'll do is continue to print money to rebalance certain things falsely to make an impression like as if things were back to normal. This is why bonds exist. So pretty much you would buy these bonds because it has a fixed rate of, let's say, 4%, 5% over X amount of years. You hold on to it no matter what happens to the economy, that bond continues to grow. Long term, it's not a great play because you could get better returns on the ETF, in the stock market, or even crypto. But short term, I can see how that could be beneficial. When we're going through rough turbulences, you have some set aside in bonds. It could actually be helpful. But in all honesty, bonds, I don't think it's a long-term play. I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. That's where they sell some of that debt to you. You put some of your money so that they can get more money that they're borrowing from, and they pay you that interest over a set amount of time. But what happens is the interest rates continue to increase on top of them lending more and more money. The deficit is not going down. They own, I think, almost $40 trillion, which is crazy, ridiculous. I think China also owns some of these bonds. There's other countries. US dollar is still like the #1 leading currency when it comes to fiat. Fiat is in terms of like money that countries actually have. But when it comes to crypto, that might all change. The crypto market is only $3 trillion. But I think eventually more and more money is going to go inside of that. Because if you think about it, if all the money in the world went inside of crypto, settled there will be no more inflation. Like, you can't just falsely print money. There would be no such thing. You have to earn what it is that you're doing. And all countries will be stagnant. That's part of the reasons why the US panic. They want to have their hands in on as many things as possible when it comes to crypto, so they always get a piece of the cut. They're just trying to make sure that they get their cut for all the hard work and labor that they help you do along the way to help you get to where you want to be. You want to own property on this land? Yeah, sure, you could buy it, own it, but you still got to pay us for the rest of your life. As long as you own this, you got to pay for that as well. You want to get that car? Well, if you're selling that car, you owe us money, and the person buying this owes us money. You're selling this piece of clothes? Well, you owe us money if you make any money off that sale. Uncle Sam just eats in all areas and all capacity. How can we reduce the government spending, though? Because it's something that's really detrimental. For me, small business, minority-owned business, I think it might affect some of the programs that are catered to that. But in all honesty, I'm getting to a point where I don't really care, because it's really frustrating to see that only certain corporations keep getting the same contracts over and over. And you may have a quality service, but the government will pay for the lowest, cheapest thing, and it's trash. It reduces productivity. It's very inefficient, but they'll pay for it because it was the cheapest thing. And they'll keep buying from the same set of people over and over. You as a small business, you're going to be more innovative because you actually had hands-on stuff, hands-on experience. And this is where disruption happens. All these big startups that came about to be, it all came from a small idea. It didn't come from a big tech company. Because if you think about it, if all the big tech companies always had the innovative ideas, there would be no more startups. And they would pretty much run everything. But disruptions keeps happening. And what they'll do, these big companies, either buy these small startups to expand them out, or if the small startups get enough market share, then they'll come take after their throne. They're either forced at that point to kind of partner up with them in some way, or figure out a way to eat off a piece of their pie and work together. It's the same way when it comes to the U.S. government. They're not allowing that to actually happen. From what I'm seeing firsthand, it's very hard to work with the U.S. government. They do promote this whole, small minority business, HubZone will definitely do X amount of spending towards that, but a lot of it is pretty much crap. There's not that fairness going on. I do believe you got to market your business fairly and all such a ways, but they make it very hard for you to get in front of these people that you're supposed to get in front of you. It's very inefficient to how that whole process works, and that's where I agree with Musk. We got to cut spending on certain things that are unnecessary. We got to find ways to make things a lot much more efficient. Because in all honesty, like for me, I design experiences for softwares, web apps. If you think about a lot of the government stuff that you use, they're trash. They're horrible. The experience is not great. This is where someone like me comes in, understand how you work, your mental model, how you operate, where do you think in your cultural fit, to see how I can map that and make that work. It's an expertise that most people that design and develop these softwares, they do not have, because they're all about, does it check off this? Does it do this? Does it do that? And they'll go and buy it. That's how the government pretty much operate. If it checks all the boxes, they'll go buy it. But it doesn't mean it's working in the most efficient way for those people that are going to use it. Because what you're going to have is tired workers, very frustrated workers, or they're spending so much time on doing a lot of manual tasks and nothing is being actually efficient. So that extra dollar they could have spent on someone either like me to actually consult in that area, or even building a custom solution that fits what they need to make them operate much more efficient. It might be a more upfront cost, but long-term wise, not just the dollar cost, but the time, it creates that efficiency for things to move accordingly. How can we get much more efficient when it comes to the whole economy, the whole operations? I understand that with his approach as well, it could eliminate a lot of agencies, government agencies. That's one thing he's thinking about doing, cutting agencies that seems to be unnecessary, or consolidate them where they need to be. But I think that could be a pretty good thing. It's going to force these people to now go find other jobs. In the beginning, it's going to be rough. It's going to cause a lot of havoc. People are going to panic. Unemployment, I'm sure a lot of people are going to file. It might disrupt the economy. But remember, once we break things down, tear them apart, let it come back together in a natural way, it becomes a much more efficient way of doing things. Before you see your muscles build up, you got to tear them up and wait a few days for them to get back to where they're supposed to be. And sometimes you don't see the results right away. It might be 6 months, it might be a year, but that's okay. We're working towards that one solution. We go through that rough times, just like if the housing market crash should happen, let it happen. A lot of job losses are going to happen. Some people don't have no savings. It's going to cause a lot of wreck in people's homes. But we should be able to save up in our times. We should not overspend. We got to break certain habits. We got to look at getting into certain situations that we can only actually afford. I know so many people that either have cars they cannot afford. It's sucking up like half of their income or more, and they can't even afford a place to live. And it's a sad reality that I notice, not just with a couple of people, but as I'm trying to rent a unit, looking at people's financials, it is horrible. Like, just as an example, right? This is not really use case, but let's say I have this $1,000 a month apartment. So typically apartments, you need 1 month to move in. Some places they ask for 1 month security or 1.5 security. And then you probably have the broker fees, right? So you're at $3,500 just to move into a place. Just as an example, seeing some of these people, when you ask them for their financials and their bank statements, they literally have like $1,200 in savings, and that's it to their name. Now, how do you expect to move into this place with just that money? Where's the rest of this? Plus, you're supposed to have that amount plus some more cushion. Really, ideally, you should have 6 times whatever the rent is. So $1,000 in rent, you should have $6,000 saved up so you can do that move. Security you get back, the first month rent you pay, it's not really a loss because you would have had to pay that in your next place anyway. And then the commission fee, that's the only throwaway money. But it could be worth it for you in certain cases because you might find something that really is fitting for you, especially for brokers working for you versus you going on the hunt for yourself. So that's the way this all works and operates. And that's what I'm noticing as well when it comes to like the state of the U.S. economy. A lot of people are overspending. They're not really managing, control their budget. And when the havoc happens in an economy like that, it tears all these things out. It forces people to get into good habits. And what Musk wants to do with the U.S. government, I think, is very great. It's going to turn it to the true business that it's supposed to really is, which is to benefit the American people and not be this sucking up all the dollars, wasting it on this and that just because you got a relationship with this company. They get all the contracts, but then there's inefficiency there. It's not working properly. If you look at his rockets, right, it's going up, coming back down. No wasted parts at all. It's being much more efficient. I remember he was saying it took like 2 months for that whole paperwork for that technology to get passed through to the government. Why? Why can't it be a week? Why can't it be a few days? Like, especially if you have a dedicated person to do it. And I'm sure that there are not too many rocket companies out there. But why does it take 2 months? And I'm sure a lot of chasing had to happen. But that's what I mean. Red tapes, things that happen inefficiently, the things in the areas that they really need to focus on, they're not doing. And it causes this havoc. So those are some of my thoughts when it comes to where the economy could be heading with this presidency. And I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen. Yes, it's going to be wreckage, but we must trust in Jesus. Just know that our leaders are not really these people and the president. Let whatever will be, will be. Whoever was going to be president, to me, it didn't matter. Because my king, my true Lord and Savior, my president is Jesus Christ. So that's where we really have to put our trust in. Not these people, but seeing how things unfold, God uses people however he wants. His plan is going to carry through it. No matter what, God's plan will always prevail. Have an amazing one. Peace and love. Trust in Jesus. Hustle, hustle.